we're going to show you how to set the thread brakes on the Campbell lock stitch machine, which are these two top brakes as illustrated in the manual on page 8. And the book tells you to set them like the picture. We're going to show you how to set them and the reason behind it. These brakes have 3 grooves in them. And the purpose of the grooves is as you start to wear the brakes, you can go to 3 different positions. So you get 3 lives basically out of one set of brakes. But make sure that you always set the thread to be in line with the groove on each side so that they're matching on the grooves. But when we set this position, go ahead and show us how you would set that. Put your thread in there, and you want to make sure that, now we have this guide in the way right now. You probably want to loosen that when you do this setting, so let's go ahead and pull that loose.
Or remove it completely?
Yeah, just to move it out of the way, just so it pulls the slack off. You don't have to pull it all the way out. That's fine.
Normally we just put it in the middle, in the center slot to begin with.
So we're going to set it in the center slot. Alright, and then you go under the first take-up roll and then over the second take-up roll. Okay. And of course you thread it on down, but once you have that thread in there, you want that thread to produce a straight line. So basically you loosen your thread brakes and you let them come rest on top of that thread, and that kind of gives you your position. So using the thread as a guide, you can kind of set your brakes against your thread. If you have them set too far, they can bind, they can lock up the thread, and too loose they're just not going to hold it well. So you want them to mesh well, and so you just use the mesh of the lower brake with the thread in between, and let that top brake, which is, this is the only one you really adjust, you just loosen that screw, let it rest down on top of the thread, and you're holding the tension on the thread so it's got a straight line, and you lock it back down. And then your bottom brake, you can adjust the tension with this spring right here, so it can take a little more aggressive position on that lock to pull it in a little bit tighter or less, so it gives it a little bit of a tension adjustment of sorts.
And normally if it pops, it'll indicate which brake is too tight.
So if you have it break on one of these,
if this one is too tight, it'll break right there, it'll pop right here. Or if this one is too tight, it'll break. It'll normally break, you know.
and if it's too tight, you just lift it up a little bit.
Right, you just lift up.
Okay, and that's how you would set the thread brakes in the machine. Now we're going to show you how to set the pressure foot on the machine. Your pressure foot really only has a couple settings to worry about. You have the walk of the pressure foot, which how much it climbs. And again, about 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimeters is what you want. And you can adjust that walk with that screw right there. His job is to push up against that little nipping lever, and that's what binds against the bar and raises the foot. So the higher it goes, the higher it lifts. The lower it goes, the lower it lifts, therefore less walk on the foot. The foot itself doesn't really have any other adjustments, except you can set a limit using that collar right there. You can prevent the foot from going down too far. So if you don't want it sitting and hitting on top of the needle plate, for instance, or if when you take the plates off, you don't want them to drop too low, you can set that collar so it gives it kind of a limit stop. The foot itself, all of our feet now are adjustable, so you can use this screw here, you can loosen it, and this screw allows you to move the foot front to back. And then in the back here you've got the screw that mounts the collar, which is this socket hex screw, and you just want to make sure when you put this on the machine that it's in line. In other words, you don't have it tilted so that it's kicked off to the side. You want it to be in line with your slot, and if it was not perpendicular, or parallel I should say, with the slot, you would see it kind of kiss over to one side, and that would cause it to hit the needle or the awl, and you don't want that. But that's really the only adjustment there. And then you can adjust on the foot the tension using these screws. Now this is the one you're going to use the adjustment for. This one back here kind of locks your spring in position. You really don't need to mess with that. But this front one allows you to increase or decrease the foot tension. More tension is helpful when you're doing real heavy work and hard work to mess with. It can keep your material from jumping up out of the way. If you got too much tension, you might not like it because it can leave marks in your material. But that's the only adjustments you have to worry about for the pressure foot.